Chapter 210, Heart of Wolf. Li Chengshuan didn't mind Mother Zhao's cold and arrogant attitude and followed her into the house. Before leaving, he did not forget to look at the neighbors and give them a polite smile. After they left, a neighbor couldn't restrain her curiosity and said, "Do you know why Aunt Zhao's son-in-law came to visit this time? Last time they came to celebrate the new year, I heard that they had a quarrel. Yesterday I heard someone arguing, so I opened the door to check. Guess what I saw?" Another neighbor said mysteriously. "Aya, tell us quickly, don't keep it to yourself." Her words aroused the interest of the other neighbors. As soon as I opened the door, I saw a tall and handsome man talking to Aunt Zhao. At first I thought Aunt Zhao had finally found a good man for her niece. It turned out that man was the eldest brother of Aunt Zhao's son-in-law. They looked nothing like each other, the neighbor said exaggeratedly. Since they were quarreling, I was afraid that Aunt Zhao would be bullied, so I listened to their conversation. "Did you know, Aunt Zhao's daughter is hospitalized and is in critical condition?" But it was Aunt Zhao's words that sent shivers down my spine, the neighbor added with widened eyes. "What did Aunt Zhao say? Tell us quickly," another neighbor urged with curiosity. "Aunt Zhao said that a married daughter is like spilled water. Her life or death has nothing to do with the Zhao family and is the responsibility of her parents-in-law. She refused to visit her daughter in the hospital and said that her parents-in-law took advantage of her daughter's situation to ask for money from the Zhao family." The neighbor shook her head. "Heavens, I didn't expect Aunt Zhao to be so cruel to her daughter. She usually looks like a kind elder. How could she say such a thing?" Another neighbor said in disbelief. "You are new here, so you don't know. That year Aunt Zhao asked for a bride price of 300 yuan when her daughter married her son-in-law, not including the radio. The Zhao family only cares about their son and regards their daughter as a tool to pave the way for him," another neighbor added with a click of her tongue. "Not only that, their daughter would bring them a lot of things every time she came to visit. However, not only did they not thank her, but they also scolded her for not bringing back enough things from her husband's house. The Zhao family seems to be kind and educated, but their hearts are darker than a wolf's. It is a pity for their daughter, but it is also unfortunate for her to be born into such a family. Now she is sick and needs money. I don't think the Zhao family will agree to spend money to help her." Another neighbor sighed and said, "Don't talk about money. Maybe they even want to sever ties with her to prevent them from getting into trouble." Upon hearing this, the neighbors looked at each other and sighed. The Zhao family is too cold-blooded. At the same time, Li Chengshuan and Zhao's mother were already sitting opposite each other in the living room. Mother Zhao looked at Li Chengshuan and said, "Son-in-law, don't blame Mother for not helping you and Siyu. It's not that we don't want to help at all, but as you can see, our family's conditions are not good either. We really can't afford to help you pay the hospital bills. What's more, Siyu is your wife. You have the responsibility to take care of her." Li Chengshuan already knew that Mother Zhao would refuse to help pay the hospital bills, so he was not surprised at all. He didn't come here today to ask for money, but to ask her to take care of Zhao Siyu in the hospital. As for money, after Zhao Siyu passed away, the factory would give him some money as mourning money. Although it was a waste to use the money to pay hospital bills, he didn't mind spending the money as long as he could get rid of the Zhao family from his life. After a while, Li Chengshuan sighed and said sadly, "Mother, I understand your situation. I won't ask for money, but as you know, I need to work so that I can make money to pay for the hospital expenses. Now, only you can help me take care of Siyu in the hospital. So..." Before he even finished with his words, Mother Zhao interrupted him. "That won't do. If I go to the hospital to take care of Siyu, what about your father-in-law? I have to help him cook and take care of the housework. You won't expect me to abandon my husband for a married daughter, won't you?" Li Chengshuan lowered his head to hide the disgust and anger in his eyes. After a while, he raised his head again and said, "Mother, I won't ask you to stay in the hospital all day. Just come over and take care of Siyu for a few hours every day." After listening to his words, Mother Zhao frowned and said, "No, if I go, I need to buy food. It would be troublesome to cook at home and take them to the hospital." After listening to her words, Li Chengshuan knew what she was implying and said, "I will try to discuss this matter with my family and see if they can provide you with food during your stay." When Mother Zhao heard his words, her eyes flashed. She wouldn't mind going to the hospital to take care of her sick daughter if she could leech off a meal or two from the Li family. After all, she could go there during lunch and return before dinner. This way, she can get 2 meals a day from the Li family. After weighing the pros and cons, Mother Zhao finally sighed and said helplessly, "Son-in-law, if your family can provide me with 2 meals a day, I will try my best to spare time to take care of Siyu when she is in the hospital." Li Chengshuan sneered in his heart when he heard her words. She actually wants to have 2 meals a day paid for by him. What a big appetite. Did she think that his money fell from the sky? Although he was irritated by Mother Zhao's words, he still showed a relieved expression and said, "Then I'll ask my family. Mother, please come over tomorrow. I can only take leave today and I have to go back to work tomorrow." Mother Zhao didn't hear his assurance and still had doubts. But when she thought that the Li family were honest farmers, she was convinced that they would not dare to ignore her request or lie to her. If they dared to lie to her, she would go to their house and make a scene, see if they still have faces left. Now that they had an agreement, Mother Zhao didn't want to talk nonsense to her poor son-in-law anymore, and said, "Since I agreed to your request, you can go back to the hospital. Don't leave Siyu there alone." Li Chengxuan stood up and said, "Then I'll take my leave now, Mother. See you tomorrow." Mother Zhao just waved her hand, not even sending him to the door. After Li Chengxuan left Zhao's house, he went to a state-owned restaurant for a meal before returning to the hospital. As soon as he entered Zhao Siyu's ward, he saw a nurse sitting on a chair beside the bed writing something. When the nurse heard the footsteps, she raised her head and looked at Li Chengxuan with displeasure. She stood up from her chair and asked, "Comrade, are you Zhao Siyu's family member?" Li Chengxuan didn't know what happened during his absence, so he nodded and said, "Yes." "Comrade, are you aware that a member of your family is in a critical condition? How could you leave her alone? The patient's condition is unstable and she cannot be left unattended. If you need to leave her alone, you must notify the nursing staff. Fortunately, I came to check on the patient, otherwise she might be dead by the time you come back." The nurse was very angry and said with a sharp and rude tone. After hearing her words, Li Chengxuan's face darkened, but before he could offer any excuses, the nurse added, "Now that you are here, you should stay with the patient. We have prescribed some medicine to the patient to keep her condition stable. Don't leave the patient alone anymore, otherwise the consequences will be serious." After leaving these words, the nurse left the ward without even looking at him. Being scolded by the nurse made Li Chengxuan's mood plummet. His face looked as ugly as if he had swallowed a fly. He stood by the bed, looked at Zhao Siyu coldly and said, "Since you are already like this, why bother struggling? The sooner you die, the better for everyone." After saying this, he walked to the chair to rest. Unexpectedly, after he turned around, a teardrop slipped from the corner of Zhao Siyu's eye. Although she was in a coma, Zhao Siyu could still hear the sounds around her. She always thought that she and her husband were in love, so when she heard his words, she was shocked, angry, disappointed, and scared. But in her current state, there was nothing she could do. Lying in the hospital bed, she felt that life was worse than death. Perhaps it would be better to die than to continue living in torture. At the same time, in Zai village, after she finished brewing wine and made a lot of snacks, meat sauce, and pastries, Lu Jiu left her space. When she came out of her own space, it was already past 3 in the afternoon. She went to check the vegetable garden. With the mulch covering the soil, the water is absorbed well, and she does not need frequent watering. Since there was still time before making dinner, Lu Jiu went to the kitchen and took out a small bamboo basket from the cabinet. She took a bowl and filled it with some wild berries from her space. She also packed some milk candies and put them in a bamboo basket. After that, she locked the door and went to Aunt Li's house. After walking for more than 10 minutes, she arrived at Aunt Li's house. Seeing the door to the front yard was open, she knocked on the door and said, "Hello, is anyone home?" She stood outside the house and waited for a while before a young girl came out, carrying Aunt Li's grandson on her back. Seeing an unfamiliar face, the girl timidly asked, "Hello, sister, are you looking for someone?" Lu Jiu looked at the girl and smiled. "I am Lu Jiu who lives in the house on the top of the hill. I am here to give this to your grandma." The girl looked at the bamboo basket and saw fresh berries and milk candies inside. Her eyes lit up, but she still hesitated to accept it because she didn't know Lu Jiu. But unlike her, Aunt Li's grandson has met her several times and is very familiar with her. Seeing that his sister still refused to accept the gift, he stretched out his little hand and said, "Aunt Lu, hug." Lu Jiu smiled, patted his head and said, "Shitu, are you behaving well at home?" Yes, Shitu nodded and said in a milky voice. Seeing that her brother was familiar with the guest, the girl asked shyly, "Auntie, are you the one who saved my brother?" Lu Jiu smiled and said, "I just gave Shitu some remaining medicine. It's a small thing." When the girl heard this, she quickly stepped aside and said, "Auntie, thank you for saving my brother. Please come in, you can call me Danyu. I won't be coming in since I need to return and prepare dinner. This is a small gift. Share it with your family. Tell your grandma that I will visit her next time and thank her properly," Lu Jiu said as she handed over the bamboo basket. Danyu took the bamboo basket and said, "Thank you, Auntie." After delivering the gifts, Lu Jiu returned home and went to the kitchen. She lit a fire and boiled a large pot of water to fill the drinking jar. While waiting for the water to boil, she used the brazier to make milk tea. She used fresh milk from her space, poured it into a pot and brought it to a boil over medium heat. She put some tea leaves and boiled them until the color changed. Then she strained the tea into a kettle, added 2 spoonfuls of brown sugar and stirred evenly. After the milk tea was brewed, she waited for it to cool down before closing the kettle. After the water was boiled, she put out the fire on the stove and let the water cool before leaving the house. She put milk tea, a few bamboo cups and 2 kettles of water on the front basket of her bicycle and rode towards the north area. As she rode her bicycle, she saw villagers working hard in the fields. As for the educated youths, some were resting under the trees, while others were working listlessly. Just by looking at the way they waved their arms, Lu Jiu guessed that they wouldn't be able to earn many work points. When he arrived at the central area, Lu Jiu stopped her bicycle and saw Pan Magia sitting under the tree. She rode up to her and shouted, "Magia." Hearing her voice, Pan Magia opened her eyes and found her friend looking at her with worry. She waved her hand and said weakly, "Jiu, why are you here?" Lu Jiu looked at her pale face and asked, "Magia, are you all right? You look so pale." "I'm fine, I just need some rest," Pan Magia said with a smile. After parking her bicycle, Lu Jiu took a bamboo cup, opened the jar and scooped some milk tea into it. As she handed the milk tea to Pan Magia, she said, "Maybe your blood sugar is too low. Drink this first." Pan Magia didn't know what blood sugar was, but she understood that Lu Jiu was talking about her condition. She took the cup and said, "Thank you, Jiu. You have helped me many times and given me many things. I feel ashamed that I keep receiving things from you without giving you anything." "Aren't we friends? Friends should help each other," Lu Jiu said casually. Before Pan Magia could say anything, Ling Yun came over, squatted down beside her, and touched her forehead without warning. Feeling the warm palm on her forehead, Pan Magia was stunned and could not react for a moment. By the time she came to her senses, Ling Yun had already retracted his palm and said, "You still have a fever. I will finish your work, so you should just rest for today." Lu Jiu raised her eyebrows and looked at the two of them. Pan Magia noticed her gaze, coughed to hide her embarrassment, and said, "Jiu, this is my friend Ling Yun." Ling Yun stood up, turned to look at Lu Jiu, and said with a nod, "Hello, thank you for taking care of Magia." At this moment, Lu Jiu didn't hear his words at all. When she saw his face, her eyes widened in surprise. Unlike Li Chenmo, who only felt that Ling Yun and Li Chen's were somewhat similar, Lu Jiu found that this man was 8 points similar to her husband. If she told others that Li Chenmo and Ling Yun were biological brothers, no one would doubt her words. When this idea appeared in her mind, Lu Jiu was stunned. She frowned and tried to recall the information about Li Chenmo's family in the original novel. There is no information that the Li family's son was switched at birth. When she read the novel before, although Li Chengxuan's personality was so different from that of Li Chen's and Li Chenmo, she didn't think there was anything strange about it. After all, even twins have different personalities. But when she crossed over to this era and saw them for the first time, she discovered that not only did they have different personalities, but they also had no similarities in body shape and appearance. Seeing that Ling Yun looked so much like her husband, she couldn't help but think of a cliché plot about child swapping. If Li Chengxuan is not Father Li's biological son, it can explain why his personality and appearance are so different from his brothers. As for Ling Yun, judging from his appearance and figure, he looks more like the son of the Li family. She only read half of the novel before she died, so maybe Ling Yun is really Li Chenmo's biological second brother, not Li Chengxuan. Seeing Lu Jiu's eyes locked on Ling Yun's face, Pan Magia coughed. She came close to her and whispered, "Jiu, you shouldn't look at other men like this. What if your husband finds out about this?" After hearing her words, Lu Jiu came back to her senses and laughed awkwardly. She quickly looked away and said, "Hello, comrade. Magia is my friend, and it is normal for me to take care of her." After saying that, she poured some milk tea for Ling Yun. "Comrade, thank you for helping my friend with her work. I made this myself, please have a try." As she said this, she handed the cup to Ling Yun. Ling Yun did not refuse the milk tea and said, "Thank you." Lu Jiu raised her head, looked at the sun and said, "Magia, I'm leaving. My husband is still waiting for me." "Okay, go ahead, thank you for the tea. I will return the cups to you later," Pan Magia said with a smile. Lu Jiu nodded to her and rode her bicycle towards the north area. When she arrived at the farmland, she saw Li Chenmo sitting under a tree eating pookies. Seeing her husband eating snacks, she smiled and parked her bicycle next to the tree. Seeing his wife coming, Lee Chenmo quickly stood up and walked towards her. He helped her park the bicycle and asked, "Wife, did something happen at home? Why are you here again?" Lu Jiu smiled at him and said, "I'm here to bring you water. I also made some milk tea to go with the snacks." "I still have water, just stay at home and don't get exhausted," Lee Chenmo said helplessly. He always told his wife to get more rest because he was worried about her health. Because of Zhao Siyu's incident, he was worried about his wife's weak body. What if his wife suddenly gets sick like Zhao Siyu? He may go crazy from worry. But his wife was so carefree and didn't understand his troubles at all, running around every day. In the end, he couldn't do anything to her. Not understanding her husband's worries, Lu Jiu pulled at Lee Chenmo's hand and said, "Husband, I'm bored at home doing nothing. I miss you, so I come here to see you. Aren't you happy to see me?" Lee Chenmo chuckled and said dotingly, "How can I be unhappy? I miss you very much and wish I could take you everywhere, but your body is weak. So it's better to be more careful. I will pay attention to my health. Okay, let's finish the snacks, otherwise they will go bad." Lu Jiu sat down and said. Lee Chenmo could only shake his head and sat next to his wife. When the villagers saw Lu Jiu coming to bring snacks and water to her husband, their eyes turned green with envy. They also want to eat something to fill their stomachs. Unfortunately, their families don't have enough food to last them until distribution day, let alone extra snacks. After eating the snacks, Lee Chenmo continued to work, while Lu Jiu filled the thermos flask and then returned home. Since the days are now longer than in winter, villagers can only finish their work after the sun goes down. In 2 hours, her husband's work was over, so Lu Jiu went to the bedroom to rest for a while before preparing dinner. As the sun went down, a siren blared over the loudspeaker, signaling the end of the day's work. Upon hearing the siren, the villagers stopped what they were doing and let out a long sigh. Lee Chenmo went to the canal to wash his face, hands and feet as usual. When he was about to go home, he saw Su Anna coming over. As she approached, his eyes grew cold. When she stood before him, everyone around them turned and looked at them with interest. Everyone knows that Su Anna has liked Lee Chenmo for a long time. Unfortunately, no matter how kind she was to him, Lee Chenmo never reciprocated her feelings at all. At this moment, the villagers are waiting for a good show to take place. Before, it was Lu Jiu who was said to be still entangled with Han Yuluo, even after her marriage. Today, will it be Lee Chenmo's turn to be entangled with Su Anna? Brother Chenmo. As soon as Su Anna opened her mouth, Lee Chenmo walked away without hesitation. He didn't even bother to look at her, let alone listen to her. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw the way Lee Chenmo treated Su Anna. Generally speaking, even if people don't like each other, they will give each other some face. What's more, Su Anna still has feelings for him. If they were in Lee Chenmo's position, they wouldn't treat Su Anna so rudely and indifferently. After all, no one can say anything to them as long as they don't cross the line. They are just friends, and it is normal for friends to chat occasionally. What's more, Su Anna's family works in a factory and is considered rich. It would be good for Lee Chenmo to have a good relationship with her. No one knows what problems they will encounter in the future. Having more connections is never a bad thing. Su Anna looked at Lee Chenmo's back in disbelief. Her eyes were red as she walked away with her head lowered in embarrassment. Hearing the laughter around her, her hatred for Lu Jiu increased even more. If it weren't for her, Lee Chenmo would be hers, and she wouldn't need to bear this embarrassment. "Lu Jiu, just you wait," she muttered in a low voice, full of hatred. Not knowing that she was being blamed again for something she didn't do, Lu Jiu sneezed. She pinched her nose and muttered, "Am I catching a cold?" Since there was nothing abnormal about her body, Lu Jiu didn't think much about the sneeze and continued to prepare the dough. Tonight, she made beef noodles and a plate of stir-fried vegetables. When dinner was almost ready, Lee Chenmo arrived home. Hearing the sound coming from the front yard, Lu Jiu took a pot of hot water and placed it in the bathroom before walking to the front yard. When she saw her husband coming home, she smiled and said, "Husband, welcome home." When Lee Chenmo saw his wife, a smile appeared on his face. He walked to his wife, leaned down and hugged Lu Jiu. Smelling her familiar scent, he took a deep breath and sighed. "Wife, I'm back," he said hoarsely. "Husband, you have worked hard today. I have prepared hot water for you. You go take a bath first, and then we will have dinner together," Lu Jiu said while patting her husband on the back. After hugging for a while, Lee Chenmo let go of his wife and went to take a bath. Seeing her husband's tired look, Lu Jiu felt heartbroken and decided to make some chicken soup for her husband tomorrow to replenish his health. When Li Chenmo finished taking a bath, Lu Jiyu was already waiting for him in the bedroom. Looking at the steaming beef noodles and a plate of stir-fried vegetables on the small table, Li Chenmo felt his mouth was watering. "Husband, let's eat while it's hot," Lu Jiyu said and took the towel from her husband. "All right, let's eat." Li Chenmo sat next to her and took the beef noodles. While eating dinner, Lu Jiyu said, "Husband, Major will come to get snacks and meat sauce at 1 o'clock tomorrow morning. She will help me send them to Huzi." Li Chenmo swallowed the noodles and said, "Get the things ready and put them in the kitchen. I'll give them to her tomorrow." Lu Jiyu looked at her husband and said with a smile, "Husband, you should rest more. If I'm tired, I can sleep during the day. You don't have to worry about me." Li Chenmo thought for a moment, nodded, and said, "Okay, wake me up if you need anything." Lu Jiyu nodded to her husband and smiled. She was happy because her husband supported her decision. After dinner, Lu Jiyu went to wash up, while Li Chenmo went to wash the dishes. After giving her husband a medicinal foot bath, she locked the door and went to sleep. After sleeping for a few hours, Lu Jiyu woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning and went to prepare the items. Since she had already made it beforehand, all she had to do was put the things into the bamboo basket. As soon as she finished her work, she heard someone knocking on the front yard gate. She walked to the front yard and saw Pan Magia yawning as soon as she opened the door. "Magia, come in," she said with a smile. Pan Magia walked into the house and said, "Jiyu, do you need to buy something from the market? I can buy it for you later." "I still have some left, so I don't need to buy it for now," Lu Jiyu said as she led Pan Magia towards the kitchen. Entering the kitchen, she opened the banana leaves on the bamboo basket and said, "Magia, there are 10 jars of meat sauce, 2 bottles of oyster sauce, 2 jars of wild honey, 200 dumplings, and 200 empanadas." When Pan Magia heard this, her eyes widened and she asked, "Jiyu, when did you get up to prepare this? Don't tell me you haven't slept yet." "I've been sleeping for a few hours," Lu Jiyu said casually. "What's the price?" Pan Magia asked. "Tell Brother Huzi that the price is the same as before. Also, this is for you. I made a few extra snacks for you," Lu Jiyu said, handing a package to Pan Magia. Pan Magia was curious and opened the oil paper and saw several pieces of empanadas inside. Although she was already drooling, she resisted her urge to eat and put the empanadas in the bamboo basket. "Jiyu, I have to go, otherwise I will be late for work." Pan Magia picked up the bamboo basket and said. Lu Jiyu helped her carry the bamboo basket to the front yard and said, "Thank you, Magia, be careful on the road." Pan Magia tied the big bamboo basket to the back seat, put her own small bamboo basket on the front basket, got on the bicycle and said, "Okay, you go back to sleep. I will send the money over later." After sending Pan Magia away, Lu Jiyu returned to the bedroom and continued to sleep. She calculated the price and knew that her things should cost about 600 yuan. At the same time, Pan Magia was riding her bicycle and saw Ling Yun waiting for her at the roadside. Seeing her coming, he walked over and asked, "Are you going to the market now?" Pan Magia stopped her bicycle and said, I want to buy some meat and flour. Is there anything you want to buy?" Ling Yun did not answer her question but took out his own money. He handed it to her and said, "Use this later when you want to buy things." Pan Magia glanced at him doubtfully but did not take the money and said, "You have already given me the money to buy meat and grain. Why are you giving me money again?" Ling Yun sighed, put the money into her hand and said, "Take it. Be careful on the way and don't wander in the market for too long." After saying that, he turned around and walked back to his home. Pan Magia scratched her head and looked at his back in confusion. She didn't know why Ling Yun liked to give her money. By right, after he paid back the money he had borrowed before, they were even. As for repaying her help, he has made her a bamboo water bottle in return, not to mention him helping her with farm work. With his help, she can get 10 work points every day, while he can only get 7 or 8 work points. Therefore, if this continues, they will no longer be able to figure out who owes whom. Since she didn't understand what he was thinking, Pan Magia decided not to guess what he was thinking. She put the money thing behind her and rode her bicycle to town. When she arrived at the black market, it was still dark. She arrived at Huzi's place and knocked on the door. Not long after, the door was opened and Huzi came out. His eyes lit up when he saw the big bamboo basket tied on the bicycle. "Magia, what's in this bamboo basket?" he asked while helping her carry the basket. Pan Magia pushed the bicycle into the house, locked the door and said, "Those are Jiyu's things. She said the price will be the same as before." Huzi was delighted after hearing what his cousin said. He had a headache because customers kept asking about Lu Jiyu's products. Since he couldn't force her to sell something, he could only promise his customers that when he got something good again, he would keep their share. It's been several days since the last delivery, and customers are starting to lose patience. Fortunately, Pan Magia successfully persuaded Lu Jiyu to sell her products again. When Huzi took out the things in the bamboo basket, his smile became even brighter. Pan Magia looked at her cousin counting the food in a good mood and asked, "Cousin, are these things so popular?" Huzi didn't even bother to stop counting and answered her nonchalantly, "Of course. Although these are just some snacks and sauces, they are delicious and exquisitely crafted. In addition, my customers said that after eating these foods, their health improved significantly. I don't know what your friend added to her food, but after I tried it a few times, I was finally able to sleep better. This is the main reason why her food is sought after by many people," he added. Pan Magia was surprised when she heard what he said, but after thinking about it, she finally noticed something. Yesterday, she developed a fever due to exertion. After drinking a cup of milk tea given by Lu Jiyu, she slept all night and her body recovered in the morning. At first, she didn't think much about it, but after her cousin pointed it out, she suddenly realized this matter. "Okay, here's the money. A total of 670 yuan. When will you come back again?" Huzi handed over the money and asked. Pan Magia was surprised when she saw the money. She didn't expect that Lu Jiyu could make so much money just by selling some sauces and snacks. After she collected the money, she said, "Cousin, give me 2 kilograms of meat, 1 kilogram of bones, 2 kilograms of white flour, and 5 kilograms of coarse grains. I will come to visit again in a few days." After listening to her words, Huzi raised his eyebrows and asked, "Cousin, you have bought a lot of meat and grains recently. Are you in a relationship with someone in the production team?" Pan Magia patted his arm, frowned, and said, "Don't talk nonsense. My friend asked me to buy this for him." "Is it a man or a woman?" he asked again. "It's a man," Pan Magia said casually while choosing meat. Huzi observed her for a while and then added, "It's good if you were just friends. You should return to the city after you complete your re-education. If you want to settle down with a villager, your parents will not agree." Pan Magia was silent after hearing his words. For a moment her heart tightened, and Ling Yun's face suddenly appeared in her mind. She quickly pushed the thought out of her mind. They were just friends and there was no romantic relationship between them. "I know, why are you so naggy?" she said with a pout. Huzi only glanced at her and said nothing. As a man, he knows what men are thinking. If her friend wasn't interested in her, he wouldn't ask her for help at all. It's not like he doesn't know where the black market is. Asking her for help was just an excuse for him to have a way to interact with her. Only his dense cousin would believe that a man would approach her without any purpose. After paying for the items, Pan Magia left the black market. It only took her an hour and a half to go to the black market and back. Back in the village, she rode her bicycle to Lu Jiyu's house. When she knocked on the door, it was Li Chenmo who opened the door. Looking at his expressionless look, Pan Magia felt a heavy pressure and said, "Ah, brother-in-law, I'm here to return the bicycle and give the money to your wife." When Li Chenmo heard her calling him brother-in-law, his eyes softened a little, and he let out a hum softly. He opened the door and stepped aside to let her in. Pan Magia quickly pushed the bicycle in, untied her bamboo basket from the bicycle, and handed the money to Li Chenmo. After that, she said, "Brother-in-law, I'll take my leave now." After saying that, she left quickly, not daring to stay another minute. She returned to Lu's house, washed her face, hands, and feet, and then went to take a nap. Li Chenmo locked the door and returned to the house carrying the big bamboo basket. After he placed the bamboo basket in the kitchen, he went to the bedroom, took out a can from the cabinet, and put the money there. Since it was still early, he lay on the kang bed, hugged his wife into his arms, and fell asleep again. When Lu Jiyu woke up, the sky was already getting bright. She opened her eyes and found that the bed next to her was empty. She sat up blankly and looked around. After a while, she braided her hair and went to the kitchen. As soon as she reached the backyard, she was hugged from behind. Smelling the familiar fragrance, she didn't resist and leaned back. Li Chenmo lowered his head to kiss his wife's earlobe and whispered, "Good morning, wife." Lu Jiyu turned her head, kissed her husband's chin and said, "Good morning, husband. I put the money from Pan Magia in the cabinet." As he said that, he kissed her again before letting her go. "All right." Lu Jiyu filled a bucket of pig feed and handed it to Li Chenmo. While her husband went to feed the piglets, she went to wash up and prepare breakfast. Since she didn't have much time, she only made some soup dumplings, soy milk, and scallion pancakes. With the meat sauce, the scallion pancakes taste great. After breakfast, Lu Jiu put some steamed buns, a thermos bottle, and a towel in a bamboo basket and handed them to her husband. She stood at the door and said, "Husband, I'll bring you water later. Be careful when working." Li Chenmo leaned over and kissed her on the lips for a while, then went to work in a good mood. Lu Jiu stood at the door until she could no longer see her husband's back, then returned to the house. She washed the dishes first, then went to the chicken coop to get eggs and refilled the feeder and water. Later, she carried another bucket of water to water the vegetable garden and peach tree and sweep the yards. It took her an hour to finish the house chores. Since it was still early, she went to the backyard, got a bamboo basket, and left the house after locking the door. After going up the mountain last time, she found that mushrooms and wild fruits were growing thrivingly. She might get more mushrooms today. When she reached the mountain foothills, she met several children picking up pigweeds on the side of the road. When they saw her heading towards the mountain, one of them shouted, "Sister, don't go up the mountain. The team leader said there are wild boars there and it's dangerous for us to go there." When Lu Jiu heard his words, she stopped her steps. She turned around, pointed in one direction and said with a smile, "Thank you for reminding me. I will only go there." The children looked at her without saying anything and continued to collect the pigweed. Only the boy who reminded her just now stood motionless while looking at her back thoughtfully. After hesitating for a while, he looked at his sister and said, "Zyro Huang, wait here. Brother will follow that sister to see where she was going." Dong Huang grabbed her brother's sleeve tightly and shook her head. Dong Li looked at her sister and then at Lu Jiu's back. Seeing that she had gone so far, he thought for a moment, took his sister's hand, and followed Lu Jiu. He wondered where she had gotten so much pigweed last time. If he could find out where she got the pigweed, he and his sister wouldn't have to compete with the other kids. They may be able to earn more work points. With such hope, he and his sister followed Lu Jiu. Not knowing that there were two little tails behind her, Lu Jiu walked towards the mountain while humming a song. When she sees a few clusters of mushrooms, she stops to pick them. Dong Li and Dong Huang saw her picking those weird plants and looked at each other. They didn't know why she collected those ugly-looking plants. After following her for a while, Dong Li discovered that she had not collected any pigweed at all. Feeling a little disappointed, he took his sister's hand and said, "Let's go back. There is no pigweed here." "We should go back, otherwise we won't get any pigweed today." Dong Huang nodded, and the two of them walked back to the village. After the two left, Lu Jiu turned around and looked at their backs with a smile. When no one was following her, she walked up the mountain, looking for more staple food, medicinal plants, mushrooms, and wild fruits. Along the way, she also picked up firewood and placed it in her own space. Although there was still a lot of firewood left in her woodshed, she and her husband used a lot of firewood, so it's best to collect more. Meanwhile, in the county town, Li Chengshuan informed the nurse about Mother Zhao's visit and left the hospital. Today he planned to tell his father about Mother Zhao's request and ask his family to bear the food expenses. It would be better if he also gets a share of the food. Since he returned to the village by walking, it took him 3 hours to finally reach Zai village. As soon as he entered the villagers looked at him with curious eyes. Seeing the villagers, Li Chengshuan smiled at them and greeted them warmly. As everyone knows, Zhao Siyu was hospitalized recently, and her condition was not looking good at all. So when they saw him smiling while greeting the villagers warmly, they were stunned. Some villagers thought that maybe Zhao Siyu's illness was not as dangerous as they had heard, because her husband did not look sad or worried at all. Other villagers believed that Li Chengshuan was indeed a scumbag. Not only does he always leech off his family even after separating the household, but he also does not feel worried or distressed by his wife's condition. This proves that he is a cold-blooded and selfish person. But no matter what the villagers thought, they had no intention of providing any help. They are curious and like to gossip about other people's family affairs, but they will never interfere. What if they get pulled into muddy water? It will be them who suffer. So it's better not to ask too many questions about this kind of matter. Not knowing what the villagers thought of him, Li Chengshuan came to the central area. Since he didn't know where Father Li was assigned this year, he needed to ask the villagers. He looked around and saw a man drinking water by a tree. Although he felt that man seemed familiar, he didn't think much about it. After all, most of them grew up together in this village, so it's normal to meet someone he doesn't know but who looks familiar. Li Chengshuan walked up to the man and said, "Hello, comrade. Do you know which area the Li family is assigned to?" Ling Yun stopped drinking, wiped his sweat, and asked, "Which Li family member?" "It's Father Li," Li Chengshuan said with a slight smile. Ling Yun looked at him with raised eyebrows. Although Li Chengshuan smiled politely, there was unconcealed disdain in his eyes. Regardless of what the stranger thought of him, he didn't care and said, Uncle Lee was assigned to the east area. After pointing out the direction, he put down the water bottle and went to the field to continue working. He didn't wait for Li Chengshuan's reaction at all. Li Chengshuan looked at Ling Yun's back coldly for a while, then turned around and walked in the direction he pointed. For some reason, he found this man was not pleasant to the eyes. His face, figure, and attitude all reminded him of his third brother Li Chenmo. He didn't know why, but when he thought about the similarities between that man and his third brother, he felt a little panic in his heart. A wild thought suddenly came to his mind. No, that's impossible, I must be thinking too much, he muttered quietly, trying to reassure himself. After comforting himself several times, Li Chengshuan put the matter behind him and went to find Father Li. When he arrived in the east area, he saw Father Li ploughing the land. Looking at his father's dirty and unkempt appearance, a trace of disgust and embarrassment flashed in his eyes before it returned to normal. He took a deep breath, walked to the side of the road and shouted, Father. Hearing the familiar voice, Father Li stopped ploughing and turned around. Seeing his second son, Father Li frowned and walked over. Father Li stood in front of Li Chengshuan and asked, Second son, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you stay in the hospital to take care of your wife? Father, I came here to discuss something with you, Li Chengshuan said. Guessing that his visit might be related to Zhao Siyu's condition, Father Li frowned deeper and asked with a hint of worry, What's the matter? Li Chengshuan was angry at Father Li's attitude. As a father, does he need to express his dissatisfaction so blatantly? Couldn't he at least pretend to welcome him, even just a little? If he didn't need his help, he wouldn't bother to come to this place. Seeing that his second son was still silent, Father Li urged, Second son, what do you want to discuss? Is there something wrong with your wife's condition? After concealing his emotions, Li Chengshuan looked at Father Li and said, Father, I went to see my mother-in-law yesterday, and she promised me to take care of Siyu while I was at work during the day. Hearing what he said, Father Li breathed a sigh of relief and said, That's good. With your mother-in-law taking care of your wife in the hospital, you and your wife will feel more at ease. My mother-in-law also said that if we want her to take care of Siyu, we need to prepare lunch and dinner for her. After all, it is troublesome to cook meals at home and take them to the hospital. If we don't prepare meals, she will not go to the hospital. Father, I'm here today to ask for your help on this matter. You know I don't have much money. Can you lend me some money so that I can pay my mother-in-law? Li Chengshuan added. Father Li was stunned after hearing what he said. He looked at his second son with wide eyes and asked, Second son, is this really what your mother-in-law said? Li Chengshuan nodded and said with a sigh, Father, I really have no choice but to come to you. You must help me, otherwise I have to stop working and take care of Siyu. But if I don't work, I won't have money to pay for hospitalization. Fee. Father Li was speechless at the absurdity of Li Chengshuan and the Zhao family. Zhao Siyu is the only daughter of the Zhao family. Even though she married into the Li family, she was still the flesh and blood of the Zhao family. How can a mother demand payment for taking care of her daughter? And how could his second son not feel that something was wrong with it? Father Li took a deep breath to calm down his emotions. He looked at Li Chengshuan and asked, So, did you agree to her request? Li Chengshuan lowered his head and said, Yes, Father, I have no other choice. Father Li closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead tiredly. His second son is really good at causing trouble and has no other merits. Just when Father Li was still thinking about how to solve this problem, Li Chengshuan's eyes flashed when he saw Father Lu and Mother Lu. After thinking for a while, he raised his head and said, Father, if you don't have money, how about we borrow some money from the Lu family? No matter what, since their daughter married my third brother, they can be regarded as our family. When Father Li heard this, his face darkened and he said, Don't even think about it. They are your third brother's in-laws and have nothing to do with you. This matter is your problem, not your third brother's. Don't bring up this matter to the Lu family and embarrass your third brother. Li Chengshuan was very unhappy with his father's words. But before he could speak, Father Li interrupted him. You go back first. We will discuss this issue with your brothers after work today. If they are willing to help, that would be great. But if they are not willing to help, you have to find a way on your own. After all, you have all separated from the family and you have to be responsible for your own family. After Father Li finished speaking, he turned around and continued working. He didn't even want to spend time with his second son any longer. It's not that he doesn't like his second son, but that he can't bear to listen to his second son's nonsense and selfish words anymore. His second son only thought of himself and never considered the situation of his brothers and father. It was as if he was entitled to their help, and if they refused to help him, it was their fault. This mentality has been ingrained in the second son's heart since he was a child, and no matter what he does or says, he can't change it. Seeing that Father Li ignored him and didn't want to discuss the matter anymore, Li Chengxuan snorted and walked away angrily. He always knew that his father never liked him and always favored Li Chenmo, but this is a serious issue related to his dignity and face. After agreeing, wouldn't it be embarrassing if he couldn't fulfill his promise? How could his father treat this matter so casually? When Father Lu saw Li Chengxuan leaving with a dark face, he glanced at his wife, and the two exchanged a tacit look. Both of them heard about the Li family's matter from their second daughter-in-law and learned about the Li family's situation. They have discussed the matter with their sons and daughters-in-law. If Lu Jiyu or Li Chenmo came to them for help, they would agree, but since neither their daughter nor their son-in-law said anything about it, they pretended to know nothing. After all, this is a private matter of the Li family and they cannot ask casually. Father Li noticed the looks of people around him and sighed. Despite his concern about his second daughter-in-law's condition, he continued working as if nothing had happened. After Li Chengxuan returned to his house in the village, Li Chen's and Li Chenmo heard about his visit from the villagers. As soon as Li Chenmo heard that his second brother had come to see his father, he already guessed what his second brother wanted. Therefore, when Li Chen's asked him to go to Father Li's house after getting off work, he was not surprised and agreed. At the same time, Lu Jiu was picking Chinese gooseberries on the mountain. The fruit should be harvested around October to December and can be counted as a winter fruit. So when Lu Jiu discovered that these fruit trees had not been harvested yet in early spring, she was surprised and delighted. She picked some ripe fruits, put them in a bamboo basket, and then collected the fruit trees into her own space. In addition to Chinese gooseberries, she found more staple foods, fruits, mushrooms, and medicinal herbs. After wandering in the mountains for 3 hours, she returned home. When she returned, she filled the bamboo basket with pigweed so as not to arouse the suspicion of the villagers. When she got home, it was already 10 o'clock in the morning. After putting the pigweed into the warehouse, Lu Jiu entered her space and took a shower. For today's lunch, she prepared steamed buns, chicken soup, braised pork, and stir-fry vegetables. For an afternoon snack, she made fruit slices. These snacks are delicious and healthy. Since she had just picked a lot of fruit from the mountains, she started processing it into chips. She could later sell the chips on the black market or eat them. She made banana, kiwi, apple, mango, strawberry, jackfruit, and pineapple slices. After she had prepared fruit slices and lunch, Lu Jiu brought a 3-layer bamboo basket, 2 kettles of water, and a kettle of lemon tea from her space. After locking the door, she left the house on her bicycle. As before, she rode her bicycle towards the north area and passed through the central area. Pan Magia saw her coming from a distance, so she stopped working and ran to get the bamboo basket. Although her cooking skills are not as good as Lu Jiu's, she can still make some simple snacks and foods. She also enjoyed picking wild fruits in the foothills near Lu's home. So she recently picked a lot of wild fruits and made candied fruit. When Lu Jiu parked her bicycle on the side of the road, Pan Magia was already waiting for her. Seeing her holding a jar and a bamboo water bottle, Lu Jiu smiled and said, "Magia, I made lemon tea today. Do you want some?" Of course, Pan Magia nodded and opened the water bottle. She already regarded Lu Jiu as a close friend, so she accepted her things without any hesitation. When Lu Jiu filled her water bottle, Pan Magia put the jar in her hand into the front basket of the bicycle and said, "Jiu, I made some candied fruit. This is your share. From now on, whenever I make something, I will give you some. This way I won't feel embarrassed accepting your stuff." Lu Jiu nodded and had no intention of rejecting her. After filling the bamboo water bottle, she took out a small package wrapped in oil paper, handed it to Pan Magia and said in a low voice, "These are fruit slices. I'm going to take them to the market to sell. You can try it for me first and see if it could be sold for money." Pan Magia's eyes lit up when she heard her words. She leaned over and said, "Jiu, your snacks are great. I was surprised when I saw how much money you could make selling these things. This time I believe you can make a lot of money too. If you want to learn, I can teach you how to do it," Lu Jiu said. Hearing this, Pan Magia waved her hands quickly and said with wide eyes, No, that's your rice bowl's skill. How could you teach me so casually? You should keep your family's recipes secret and not share them with others. More importantly, these recipes can let you earn money. Even if it's me, you shouldn't teach it to others easily." Lu Jiu did not insist and said, "Okay, then whenever you want it, just tell me. I will make it for you." This time, Pan Magia did not refuse and said with a smile, "Then it's settled." After sharing some lemon tea and fruit slices with Pan Magia, Lu Jiu first went to the south area to add water to her and Li Chenmo's brothers and gave them some fruit slices. When she walked to Zhang Dongmei, she saw that she was talking to Chen Anwen. Sister-in-law, she called them both. Hearing Lu Jiyu's voice, Zhang Dongmei and Chen Anwen both turned their heads. Seeing her coming, they walked over with a smile. Third sister-in-law, are you here to deliver water again? Zhang Dongmei asked. Eldest sister-in-law, I made some fruit slices to share with you and my brothers, Lu Jiyu said with a smile. Then I won't be polite to you and accept it. If you have finished eating the pickles, please tell me and I will send more over, Zhang Dongmei said. All right. Lu Jiyu took out the water kettle from the front basket of the bicycle and filled their water bottles. Then she handed them the fruit slices she had prepared earlier. Everyone got a pack of fruit slices as a snack. After she finished, she raised her head and found that there was still time before lunch break, so she rode to the east area. Riding a bicycle, it took only 15 minutes to reach the east area. The villagers saw her coming, and one of them said, Old Lu, Old Lei, Jiyu is here to bring water. Hearing what the villagers said, Father Li, Father Lu and Mother Lu all turned to look at her. Father Lu and Mother Lu just nodded to her and continued working. Father Li stopped what he was doing and walked over. After Lu Jiyu parked her bicycle under the tree, she took Father Li and her parents' water bottles and filled them with water. Not long after, Father Li came over and said, Third daughter-in-law, when the third son gets off work, come to my house with your husband. We need to discuss things about your second sister-in-law. Lu Jiyu nodded and said, All right. Father, my husband wants me to buy some grain and meat for you. Is there anything you want to buy? I will bring it over later. Father Li shook his head and said, I still have some food at home, you don't need to buy too much. Okay, Father, I made some fruit slices that you can eat as a snack later. It will restore your blood sugar so you won't feel dizzy. Father Li looked at the package and said, Thank you, third daughter-in-law. Father, I need to go now, Lu Jiyu said after filling the water bottle. Father Li looked at the sun and found that it was almost lunch break, so he said, Be careful when riding. Don't ride too fast. All right. After leaving the east area, Lu Jiyu headed to the north area. When she arrived, she saw Su Anna standing on the side of the road, looking longingly at her husband. In an instant, her mood plummeted, and anger surged from her heart. She admitted that she felt jealous when she saw another woman looking at her husband that way. She wanted to go over and slap her, but in this day and age, if she assaulted someone, she would be sent to jail. Therefore, she could only suppress the irritability and anger in her heart. She rode her bicycle to the foot of the tree where her husband had placed his bamboo basket and parked her bicycle there. She untied the bamboo basket on the back seat and took out a piece of fabric from the basket. After covering the ground with cloth, she took out the kettle from the basket in front and refilled her husband's thermos. After that, she sat down and leaned against the tree. When she raised her head, she saw Su Anna looking at her coldly. When she saw the anger, hatred, and blame in Su Anna's eyes, her eyes darkened. Lu Jiyu was speechless towards Su Anna's shamelessness. She is the one who should be angry because another woman lusted after her husband. How could Su Anna make it seem as if she was the villain who broke up the couple? This time, the anger in her heart was even stronger, and she snorted coldly. When she turned around and saw her husband's tall figure ploughing the fields, she suddenly realized that he was not pleasing to the eye today. Normally, her heart aches when she sees him working tirelessly, but today, when she looked at him, instead of feeling heartbroken, she felt a little angry. Whether it's your past life or this life, you always attract women everywhere. Why were you born with such a handsome face? She whispered with displeasure. As soon as these words came out, Lu Jiyu was stunned. For a moment, she regarded Li Chenmo as her senior Yiyan. They were obviously two different people. How could she think they were the same person? Is it because they have the same personality and treat her the same way? Or was there another reason that made this thought suddenly occur to her? When these questions came to her mind, she looked at her husband in surprise. Since she can cross over to the world after the plane crash, maybe her senior has also traveled through time. After all, both of them died at the same time and in the same place. If time and space are distorted, they might be sent to this world together. But if Li Chenmo is Yiyan, why doesn't he remember their previous lives? If they were the same person, he should have told her the truth the moment she took him to her space. If nothing else, the house in her space is a replica of the apartment in her previous life, and her senior has also been to her apartment countless times. If they were the same person, he would already know her identity. Did something happen during the crossover that made him forget the memories of his previous life? Just as she was deep in thought, a loud alarm sounded from the loudspeaker. The sudden sound startled Lu Jiyu, and she came out of her thoughts. As soon as the alarm sounded, everyone stopped working and went for a lunch break. Li Chenmo was wiping his sweat when he saw his wife sitting under a tree, looking at him in a daze. Li Chenmo smiled at his wife and went to wash off the dirt from his body. While washing his face and hands, Li Chenmo saw a figure in front of him. Before he could see who it was, he heard Su Anna's voice. "Brother Chenmo, I made fish soup for you. You must be very tired after working all day. Just eating steamed buns cannot nourish your body. You can eat it as lunch," Su Anna said softly with a smile on her face. Li Chenmo frowned after hearing her words. Before he could refuse, a pair of slender hands took the thermos bottle from Su Anna. When Li Chenmo saw those hands, his heart skipped a beat and he turned to look at his wife. Looking at the magnanimous smile on his wife's beautiful face, he felt a looming danger for some reason. Li Chenmo opened his mouth and said, "Wife, I..." Lu Jiu turned around to look at him and asked with a sweet smile, "N?" Before he finished speaking, he saw his wife looking at him with a bright smile on her face. Unfortunately, that smile did not reach her eyes as usual. His survival instincts immediately kicked in and he shut his mouth. He stood obediently beside his wife, not daring to say a word. When the villagers saw Lu Jiu facing Su Anna, they were all excited. Everyone gathered around to watch the fight between the two beauties. Some men envy Li Chenmo because he has two beauties competing against each other for him, which is proof of his popularity, but others felt pity for him because they had been in his situation. Whenever their wives get jealous, they are the ones who suffer, not the other woman. If it's not handled well, Li Chenmo might have to sleep on the floor tonight. While the villagers were watching with great interest, Su Anna was annoyed by Lu Jiu's intervention. She snatched the thermos bottle back from Lu Jiu's hand and said, "Lu Jiu, what do you mean? I made this for Brother Chenmo, not for you." Lu Jiu crossed her arms and looked at Su Anna from head to toe, with obvious ridicule in her eyes. Being openly looked down upon by her love rival aroused Su Anna's anger. She glared at Lu Jiu and said, "Don't think that since Brother Chenmo marries you, you can flaunt your position as his wife and look down on me. You can only marry Brother Chenmo because of your conspiracy." Hearing her words, Lu Jiu burst out laughing. She thought Su Anna's words were funny. It is not her who should be worried, but her husband. The reason is simple. Her husband insists on marrying her and refuses to break off the engagement. What's more, she is his wife, and she has the right to flaunt her status as Li Chenmo's wife. She didn't see any problem with it. Although she loves her husband very much now, when they were found by the villagers, it was not her but the original soul. The person the original soul loves is Du Jiawen. Therefore, Su Anna's statement that she plotted against Li Chenmo and forced him to marry her is pure nonsense. When Su Anna saw her laughing, she felt confused and asked, "Why are you laughing?" After taking a few deep breaths, Lu Jiu looked at her husband and asked, "Husband, did I force you to marry me? If that's the case, it is indeed my fault. I should not have broken up a pair of mandarin ducks." Li Chenmo's heart sank when he heard his wife's words. He grabbed Lu Jiu's arm and pulled her towards him. He looked at her and said in a low and dangerous voice, "Wife, I don't mind if you are angry with me because of a stranger, but if you say that nonsense, I will be angry." Lu Jiu was startled by his anger and suddenly forgot what she was going to say. She just wants to piss off Su Anna and claim her sovereignty over Li Chenmo. But why did her husband suddenly become angry? She didn't even start yet. Seeing that his wife didn't speak, but just looked at him with a confused face, the image of his wife and the tall man laughing intimately appeared in his mind, and he was suffocated with jealousy. He approached his wife and asked in a low voice, "Wife, are you still thinking about the man in your dream and really want to leave me?" Before Lu Jiu could explain the misunderstanding, Li Chenmo gritted his teeth angrily and said, "Don't even think about it. I said it before, if you dare to leave me, I will lock and tie you up if necessary." Looking at his angry red eyes, Lu Jiu finally felt that something was wrong with her husband. When did the male protagonist start taking the Yandia route? She screamed in her heart. "Husband, you misunderstood me. Why are you angry with me? I should be the one who is angry now." Although Lu Jiu panicked, she still said aggrievedly with a pout. Hearing her words, Li Chenmo was stunned, and all the crazy jealousy in his heart disappeared instantly. He looked at his pouting wife and asked, "Wife, what do you mean? Did I do something wrong?" Lu Jiu snorted coldly, pointed at Su Anna and said, "You still have the guts to ask. She dared to give you fish soup and mock me, your wife, in public. As a married man, how can you let an unmarried woman act so chummy with you? If you really want to be with her, you can tell me and I will leave. Is it necessary to embarrass me like this?" Li Chenmo was stunned by her words, and his face turned pale from shock and panic. "You two have gone too far," Lu Jiu added, stamping her feet angrily and running to the bicycle with red eyes. At first, Lu Jiu just wanted to distract her husband's anger and put Su Anna in her position to teach her a lesson so that she would not dare to seduce her husband again. But the more she spoke, the more aggrieved she felt. She feels insecure about her relationship with her husband. After all, they were only a couple in name and had not consummated their marriage. He could leave her at any time. The villagers were all shocked when they saw her sudden outburst. This was the first time they had seen her so angry and even crying in public. Seeing Li Chenmo still standing there motionless, one of the aunts shouted, "What are you doing standing there? Go follow your wife and coax her." After hearing the aunt's words, Li Chenmo came back to his senses and quickly went after his wife. Because of his long legs, he caught up with his wife before she even reached the bicycle. He quickly held her hand and said, "Wife, listen to me. You misunderstood me. I have nothing to do with her." Lu Jiu tried to withdraw her hands several times, but her hands were held tightly by her husband. In the end, she just let him hold her and said, "Let go. We are in the public. We would be in trouble if we were reported." "Promise me you won't run away first," Li Chenmo said, observing his wife's expression. Lu Jiu nodded. After making sure that she would not run away again, Li Chenmo finally let go of her hand and said, "Wife, I really have nothing to do with her." Lu Jiu knew that he had nothing to do with Su Anna, but her jealousy enveloped her heart and clouded her mind, so she blamed everything on him. It was ridiculous and childish, but she couldn't help it. She was angry and felt sour in her heart. After a long silence, she finally said, "I know." "Then why are you angry with me and even run away?" Li Chenmo asked. Lu Jiu felt embarrassed for her behavior, but on second thought, it was better to discuss it with her husband than to keep everything in mind. Her mother's words rang in her mind again. Indeed, marriage is not easy, and love cannot solve everything. She shouldn't be like this, blaming everything on her husband. "I'm not angry with you, I'm angry with Su Anna," she whispered. Li Chenmo was confused by her words and waited for her to continue. Seeing that her husband didn't understand her meaning, she said, "I'm jealous. I don't like other women coming up to you and looking at you like that. I hate it. It's obviously you who wants to marry me. Why do those women always blame me for our marriage? Also, why were you born with this face? If you weren't so handsome, there wouldn't be so many women coveting you. You are so hateful." Li Chenmo was stunned for a moment, then burst out laughing. He was so happy that his wife was jealous. She finally revealed her feelings to him. It turned out that her feelings for him were not just respect and admiration, she also loved him. Seeing her husband laughing happily, Lu Jiu felt a little annoyed. She patted his chest and asked, "Why are you laughing?" Li Chenmo looked at his wife and smiled dotingly. "Wife, I'm very happy. It's great that you are jealous." Lu Jiu frowned, but before she could protest, he added, "I promise you, I will never let another woman get close to me again. So don't be angry with me anymore, okay?" After thinking about his words, she finally nodded and said, "Husband, I'm sorry for losing my temper with you. It doesn't matter. When you are with me, you don't need to restrain yourself. But don't say you want to leave me again, otherwise I will be very sad," Li Chenmo said with a smile, brushing the hair from his wife's forehead. Lu Jiu nodded and said guiltily, "Husband, I'm sorry." "Okay, let's eat now, otherwise the lunch break will be over," Li Chenmo said, pulling her to sit under the tree. The villagers were relieved to see that they had reconciled. Although they occasionally like to watch couples quarrel, they never want lovers to truly separate. After all, in this day and age, separations were still rare and viewed as a stain on one's reputation. So if they can talk it out, no one wants to be separated from their spouse. Standing on the roadside, Su Anna was stunned by the sudden change. Seeing Lu Jiu running away angrily, she was extremely happy, thinking that at least they would quarrel and there would be a rift in their relationship. But after a conversation, how come the two reconciled and became closer than before? She didn't understand what was happening. Shouldn't they be quarreling and bickering? Why did they sit down and start eating peacefully? The villagers rolled their eyes at her when they saw her standing there in shock. The men chose to ignore her, but the women got angry and couldn't help but say harsh words. What a vixen! She seduced another woman's husband in broad daylight. She threw her family's reputation into the latrine, an aunt said angrily. She usually looks down on us villagers. Who knew she was actually a shameless woman who liked to seduce married men, another woman added. You are arrogant and proud every day, but in the end, you are just a bitch who couldn't wait to be a third party. Shameless. I say, no matter how we educate this kind of person, it will be useless. The problem lies in her character, not her education. Sister-in-law, although she has a bad character and is shameless, she might be good at bed. Otherwise, how could she be sure that a married man would look at her? Said a woman, looking at Li Chenmo with a knowing look. If you don't know how to speak, don't speak. What do you mean by those words? Do you mean that my cousin-in-law has slept with that shameless woman? Wu Hunning pointed at the woman and said with a frown. I didn't mean anything else, it was you who said it this way, the woman sneered. Before Wu Hunning could retort, Lu Jiu said, Auntie, you don't have to worry about my husband's matter. Whether he has slept with other women or not, as his wife, I know best. After everyone heard this, they finally shut up and continued eating. Lu Jiu nodded to Wu Hunning and continued eating. No one cares about Su Anna's feelings. Since she dares to approach a married man in broad daylight, she should be prepared to be laughed at. Although the customs today are not as strict as during the dynastic period, and a woman can remarry even after her husband dies, reputation is still important, especially for unmarried women. Therefore, when the villagers saw Su Anna being shameless and blatantly seducing other people's husbands, they all looked down upon her. Under the gazes and ridicule of the villagers, Su Anna lowered her head and walked away. When she walked past Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu, she raised her head, hoping that Li Chenmo could say something to defend her. Seeing Su Anna looking at her husband again, Lu Jiu said coldly, Su Anna, if you dare to look at my husband like that again, don't blame me for gouging out your eyes. Li Chenmo is my husband, I won't allow anyone to covet him. Su Anna was surprised when she heard her words. When she looked into Lu Jiu's eyes, she felt a chill running down her spine. It can be seen that Lu Jiu means what she said. It seemed that if she took another look at Li Chenmo, her eyes would be gouged out on the spot. Fear arose in her heart, her face turned pale, and she ran away quickly. Li Chenmo handed her a cup of lemon tea and said with a smile, Wife, don't be angry. I'm yours, no one can covet me, don't worry. Lu Jiu snorted at her husband's words but still took the cup. After taking a sip of lemon tea, she said, Husband, you must keep your word. If you dare to lie to me, you will sleep on the floor from now on. Okay, as long as you don't kick me out of your bedroom, I'm willing to sleep on the floor. Lu Jiu was speechless by her husband's shamelessness, and finally gave in. Husband, you are so thick-skinned, I admit defeat. After hearing his wife's words, Li Chenmo let out a chuckle and said, Wife, I can never win against you, you know that. He looked at his wife and found her very cute. He felt itchy in his heart and wanted to kiss her deeply, but because the time and place were wrong, he could only endure it and wait for the night when the two of them were alone. After lunch, Lu Jiu did not go home as usual, but sat there chatting with her husband. Husband, father asked me to accompany you to his house tonight. Do you know what happened? She asked. After a while, Li Chenmo said, I heard that my second brother came to visit my father this morning. I guess this matter has something to do with Zhao Siyu's mother. Zhao Siyu's mother? Lu Jiu asked. Didn't I suggest that my second brother asked his mother-in-law to take care of his wife? Li Chenmo asked. Yes, she nodded. Judging from the character of Zhao Siyu's mother, she must make a request to my second brother when he asks her to take care of Zhao Siyu. This request is either about money or food. My second brother must come to my father for help, Li Chenmo added. Husband, why are you so sure? Lu Jiu asked. Li Chenmo looked at her and smiled. It's easy to guess when you know what they want most. My second brother is greedy for money, fame, and women. Although the Zhao family is arrogant and domineering, they are also greedy for fame and fortune. Since both parties love money, they will take advantage of Zhao Siyu's situation to get more money from us. Lu Jiu was stunned by his words and said, Zhao Siyu is just a relative of ours, but she is your second brother's wife and the daughter of the Zhao family. How can they ask us for money to take care of their own families? Not everyone has the same thoughts as you. For some people, there is no family, only interests. As long as they can get benefits, they will even use their families as tools, Li Chenmo said, touching his wife's head. Lu Jiu was stunned by his words. She feels that people in this era are more honest than modern people. It turns out that no matter what era, as long as there is greed, people's behavior will be the same. Seeing his wife's expression, Li Chenmo took her hand, squeezed it gently and said, Okay, don't worry about it. If their request is not unreasonable, we can help satisfy it. I just feel sorry for Zhao Siyu for having such a husband and family. She is such a pitiful person. Lu Jiu sighed. After saying that, she looked at her husband and said, I'm lucky to have you as my husband. Otherwise, my end might be even worse than Zhao Siyu's. Li Chenmo didn't know that his wife was talking about the ending of the original Soul in the original novel, and thought that his wife was still affected by Su Anna's incident just now. He held her hand tightly and said, I will be your husband in this life and in the afterlife. Lu Jiu smiled at him and held his hand tightly. After her lunch break, she packed away the bamboo basket and kettles. Before leaving, she looked at him and said, "Husband, I prepared some fruit slices for you. You should eat them when you are tired to replenish energy." After hearing his wife's words, Lee Chenmo nodded and said, ride slowly and be careful on the road." After taking another look at her husband, Lu Jiu returned to her home in a good mood. Despite the unexpected quarrel, she still felt very happy after being coaxed by Lee Chenmo. She was riding her bicycle, humming songs from her past life, and thinking about what to bring to Father Lee's house. When she got home, Lu Jiu came to the kitchen and took out a bamboo basket from the cabinet. She put 5 kilograms of white flour, 5 kilograms of white rice, 10 kilograms of coarse grains, 20 eggs, 2 kilograms of pork belly, and a small bottle of oil from her space into the basket. She then covered the bamboo basket with banana leaves and tied it up. After she finished preparing items for Father Lee, she went to get a smaller bamboo basket and put 20 eggs, 1 kilogram of brown sugar, and half kilogram of fruit slices on it. After that, she locked the door and rode her bicycle to Lu's house. It had been a while since her last visit. Since there was nothing going on at home, she decided to visit her second sister-in-law to see how her nephew and niece were doing. Riding a bicycle, she arrived at Lu's house in less than 15 minutes. As soon as she entered the front yard, she saw her second sister-in-law hanging their winter clothes on the bamboo poles, and the children were playing in the veranda. When Wang Muxiao saw her coming, she said with a wide smile, "Jiu, you are here." "Second sister-in-law, how are you?" Lu Jiu asked after parking her bicycle. "I'm fine, although I can't work in the fields, I can still cook and do housework. What brings you here today?" Wang Muxiao asked. "I bought some eggs and snacks for the children," Lu Jiu said, showing the items in the bamboo basket. Seeing the eggs and brown sugar, Wang Muxiao's eyes lit up and said with a smile, "You can just come over, why bring anything?" Despite having said that, she reached out her hand and took the bamboo basket from Lu Jiu's hand. Lu Jiu had become accustomed to her character, so she just smiled and said, "My parents and brothers always give me things. I can't just accept them without giving anything in return. Even if we are a family, politeness is needed." No need to bother with those courtesy," Wang Muxiao said as she waved her hand. After saying that, Wang Muxiao walked into the house and put away the things. Lu Jiu followed her. When she stood in front of the children stood up obediently and said in unison, "Little aunt." Lu Jiu squatted down and patted their heads one by one. When she reached out to Lu Wenfeng, the little girl suddenly threw herself into her arms. She rubbed her head on Lu Jiu's shoulder and said, "Little auntie, Xirofeng misses you." Feeling the little girl's soft body, Lu Jiu hugged her and stood up. She patted her back and said, "Auntie misses you too." Then she looked at Lu Wenyi and Lu Wenmu and said, "Auntie misses you too." Hearing her words, both children laughed and hugged her legs. The children clung to her body, and Lu Jiu could only walk slowly. Wang Muxiao came out of the kitchen and found it good to see that the children had such a harmonious relationship with Lu Jiu. She poured Lu Jiu a glass of warm water and said, "You see, they're all so clingy to you. If I told people how afraid they were of you before, who would believe me?" Lu Jiu put Lu Wenfeng on her lap when she sat down and said softly, "I was depressed before, so I pushed everyone away. I was overwhelmed by my own emotions and couldn't handle other people's emotions. I'm sorry for what I did before." Wang Muxiao was startled by her words. She didn't mean anything by what she said, so she was taken aback when she heard Lu Jiu's apology. "Jiu, I don't mean anything else. You don't need to apologize," Wang Muxiao said hurriedly. "Second sister-in-law, I owe everyone an apology. Although what I said and did before was not intentional, I did hurt my family's feelings. This is a fact," Lu Jiu said with a smile. Wang Muxiao didn't know why, but looking at Lu Jiu's smile, she felt sad as if someone she had known before had gone to a faraway place. Her eyes turned red slightly and she said with a sigh, "We are also at fault for not understanding your feelings and emotions. Back then, we forced you to marry someone you don't love, so it's normal for you to hate us. No matter what the reasons are, we shouldn't make a decision about your marriage without considering your feelings. Your marriage should be decided by yourself." Lu Jiu said nothing, because it was the original soul that was hurt by their decision. Therefore, she has no right to forgive them, but she can apologize to them because that's how the original soul felt when she left. Unfortunately, the original soul has left, and she will never hear her family's apology. Feeling that the atmosphere was too tense, Lu Jiu smiled and changed the subject. "Second sister-in-law, try the fruit slices I bring and see if you like it." Wang Muxiao quickly wiped away her tears and went to the kitchen to get the fruit slices. After returning from the kitchen, her mood returned to normal. She sat down and opened the oil paper. The moment she opens the package, the air is filled with the aroma of various fruits. The children's eyes widened in surprise when they saw the colorful fruit slices. Jiuyu, where did you get these fruits? This is very beautiful, Wang Muxiao said in surprise. Wang Muxiao knew that some fruits could be found in the mountains because her husband occasionally went to the foothills to pick some fruits, but there were some fruits she didn't recognize. She picked up a piece of jackfruit and smelled it. Jiuyu, what kind of fruit is this? She asked. This is called jackfruit. I bought it from the black market, but because it was rare, I only got a little bit. Lu Jiuyu lied without blushing. Wang Muxiao knows that as long as you have money, you can buy anything on the black market. Therefore, she believed what Lu Jiuyu said and said, Jiuyu, you should avoid going to the black market too often. Although it is convenient to buy things there, it is also too dangerous. Lu Jiuyu nodded and said, I understand. Wang Muxiao gave the children some fruit slices and kept the rest for the other Lu family members. After sitting for a while, Lu Jiuyu returned home. Before she left Lu's house, Wang Muxiao packed some smoked chicken and handed it to her. Your second brother brought back a pheasant from the foothills and we smoked them. Bring them back to share with your husband, Wang Muxiao said, handing the smoked chickens to her. Lu Jiuyu did not refuse and took it. Thank you, second sister-in-law. All right, you should go back now. Ride slowly and be careful on the road, Wang Muxiao reminded her as she looked at the bicycle. When Lu Jiuyu returned home, it was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She went to water the vegetable garden and clean the yard. After she was done, she went to her bedroom and entered her space. She used the washing machine to wash both her and Li Chenmo's winter clothes. The weather is getting warmer, and they no longer need to wear thick cotton padded jackets. After the laundry is done, she puts the laundry away and will bring it out to dry in the sun tomorrow. She went to check the medicinal materials in the farmland after she was done with the laundry. Unlike other crops that are automatically sowed, grown, and harvested, medicinal materials do not have that setting. Since the higher the maturity, the better the quality, she deliberately did not set a timer for the herbs, which allowed the herbs to be grown longer. When she squatted next to the wild ginseng field, she saw that the number floating above the wild ginseng had reached more than 300 years. These wild ginseng were planted not long after she traveled through time. Judging from the difference in time, it is impossible for these wild ginseng to reach this age. If 1 minute equals 1 hour, then 1 day outside the space equals 2 months inside the space. Logically speaking, these wild ginsengs only have a maturity of 5 to 10 years at most. Why are they already more than 300 years old? Lu Jiuyu was a little confused about her space. She stood up and walked to the nearby field where she was growing Ganoderma lucidum. She looked at the time and saw that it was more than 1,200 years old. Suddenly, an idea flashed through her mind and she checked the store. When she finally saw the seed list, all her doubts were cleared. It turns out that every time a new species is registered, its age begins with the age of the plants she collected. Since she collected wild ginseng that is more than 300 years old, from the moment she planted the seeds, the wild ginseng was already at that age. As for Ganoderma lucidum, she guessed it was over 1,000 years old when she collected it, but she didn't expect that she could find Ganoderma lucidum, which was 1,200 years old. After understanding the situation, Lu Jiuyu felt happy and went to the warehouse to get some sugarcane juice. Then she went to prepare dinner. She made a pot of chicken rice using the smoked chicken given by Wang Muxiao. In addition, she also made braised fish, vegetable soup, and mapo tofu. After she made dinner, she went to take a shower before leaving her space. After leaving her space, she went to the front yard and sat on a stone chair to peel pine nuts. Feeling the spring breeze blowing on her face, Lu Jiuyu yawned. She looked at the sky and realized that it had been almost 2 months since she transmigrated to this world. Although life in this world is harder than in the previous world, she is satisfied with her current lifestyle. She looked around to make sure there was no one around, and then took out the candied fruits given by Pan Magia from her space. She opened the jar and saw that the fruits inside were all covered in sugar and looked very tempting. She picked up a candied fruit and tasted it. Her eyes lit up when she tasted the sweet yet slightly sour taste. The candied fruits are delicious. If Pan Magia takes it to the market and sells it, she can make a lot of money. While she was enjoying her time, Zhao Siyu's mother was angry as she sat in Zhao Siyu's ward. She sat on the chair next to the bed, looked at her husband and complained, "Look at your good son-in-law. He clearly promised to provide me with food, but I have been here all day and I can't even see his nose." Father Zhao looked at his wife and said with a frown, "Keep your voice down. Do you want the whole hospital to hear your complaints? We shouldn't air out our own dirty laundry. Why can't I let everyone hear the truth? If I had known he would take back his words, I wouldn't have bothered to come here today. I wasted my time but got nothing, Mother Zhao said angrily. Father Zhao looked at his unconscious daughter and said, as her mother, it is natural for you to take care of Siyu. She is our daughter. So what, didn't she say she doesn't need our help when she insists on marrying Li Chengxuan? Now she's like this, and her husband can't wait to throw her back to our family. Does the Li family think we are easy to bully? Mother Zhao asked. Father Zhao fell silent when he heard his wife's words. Their daughter did say those words when she got married 5 years ago. Over the years, their daughter has always tried to repair their relationship and given their family a lot of things. But his wife still likes to bring it up and doesn't accept their daughter's intention to repair their relationship. Seeing that her husband was silent, Mother Zhao snorted and said, "You'd better not get involved in this matter. If your son-in-law doesn't fulfill his promise, I won't care about his wife." Father Zhao made a tired sound and said, "You should eat first, otherwise the noodles will get soggy and won't taste good." Mother Zhao finally stopped complaining and started eating noodles. While his wife was eating, Father Zhao went to the doctor and learned about Zhao Siyu's condition. At first, he thought his daughter's illness was not dangerous, and she would just need to be hospitalized for a period of time. But after hearing the doctor's explanation, he was shocked. "Comrade, you should be prepared for the worst outcome. The patient's condition is getting worse day by day, and the family has not yet made a decision about treatment. If treatment is delayed for too long, the cancer cells may spread to other places, and the success rate of the radiotherapy will further decrease." "Doctor, how much will the treatment cost?" Father Zhao asked. "Currently, the best way to treat blood cancer is radiotherapy, but one treatment costs at least several hundred yuan." Father Zhao was stunned by the doctor's words and stammered, "A few hundred yuan." The hospital can help family members apply for donations from the central government, but it needs Professor Zhang's recommendation. After making a decision, you can go to Professor Zhang and ask for a recommendation letter, the doctor added. Father Zhao couldn't process the doctor's words at all due to his shock, so he said, "Thank you, doctor." The doctor looked at Father Zhao's pale face, nodded to him, and then left. After being alone, Father Zhao sat on a chair in the corridor for a long time before returning to the ward. As soon as he opened the door, he heard his wife's voice. "Where are you going? I've finished dinner, let's go back. I'm tired and want to take a shower." Father Zhao looked at Zhao Siyu and said, "You go back first. I want to spend some time with my daughter." Mother Zhao squinted her eyes at her husband and noticed something was wrong with him, but she looked at him for a while and only saw his pale lips. Mother Zhao thought he might be tired and wanted to rest before going back to the house, so she stood up and said, "Don't stay for too long. I want to go to bed early and can't wait for you." "You go to bed first, I have the key," Father Zhao said. Mother Zhao glanced at her husband before leaving. After his wife left, Father Zhao reached out and held Zhao Siyu's hand. The moment he touched her bony hand, tears fell from the corners of his eyes. "Siyu, your father is useless and can't save you." Father Zhao lowered his head and sobbed. "Daughter, father is sorry." While Father Zhao was crying, a teardrop slipped from the corner of Zhao Siyu's eye, and her fingers twitched slightly. Father Zhao stayed in the hospital for a whole night and did not return to Zhao's house. At the same time, the villagers in Zai village finally finished their day's work. The sun had set and sirens blared from the loudspeakers. After washing his face, hands and feet, Li Chenmo went to get the bamboo basket and walked back to his home. In a few days, the spring plowing work will be over, and they can rest for 2 days before starting planting the field. He had already made plans for these 2 days. After getting married, he always wanted to take a wedding photo with his wife but never had the time to do it. Therefore, he will take his wife to the county town to take wedding photos during his off day. Just thinking about taking a photo with his wife made him feel happy, so as he walked back to his home, he had a smile on his face. When he walked through the central area, he saw Ling Yun walking beside Pan Magia. Li Chenmo raised his eyebrows when he saw Ling Yun helping Pan Magia carry things. Looking at them, he recalled his actions with his wife. At that moment, a knowing look flashed in his eyes, and his smile grew brighter. Unaware that someone was observing behind her, Pan Magia looked at Ling Yun and asked, "Comrade Ling, do you like candied fruits?" Ling Yun glanced at her and nodded, yes. He actually didn't like sweets, but he noticed that she gave Li Chenmo's wife something at noon, and guessed that the candied fruits she mentioned might have been made by herself. As long as she makes it, he will like it. So even though he usually didn't eat sweets, he still wanted to eat the ones made by her. Hearing his answer, Pan Magia breathed a sigh of relief and said, I made some candied fruits. You can bring some back later. Hearing her words, he raised the corners of his lips slightly and said, all right. Panmagia hesitated for a moment before she said, Comrade Ling, actually you don't need to help me with my work. As long as I can get 8 work points and can complete my work, I'm content. Your body has not fully recovered yet, so you shouldn't push yourself too hard and focus on your own work. Chapter 226, Invitation. I'm fine, Ling Yun said casually, as if he didn't understand what Panmagia's words meant. Ling Yun's answer left Panmagia speechless. She had tried to hint Ling Yun many times, not wanting them to get entangled in this ambiguous relationship, but her words seemed to have fallen on deaf ears. Because he always helped her complete her work, everyone thought they were a couple and in a relationship. In fact, they are just ordinary friends. Ling Yun actually understood what she meant and knew that she wanted to keep a distance from him. However, he didn't like being a stranger to her, so he always pretended not to understand her words and stuck to her like glue. He looked at her frustrated face and smiled. After walking for a while, they saw an educated youth standing on the side of the road, looking at them. Or more accurately, that educated youth was looking at Panmagia. For a moment, Ling Yun had the urge to stand in front of her and block the man's gaze, but before he could do anything, he heard Panmagia greeting the man. Comrade Han, what are you doing here? Panmagia asked with a hint of surprise. Seeing her and Ling Yun walking side by side, the educated youth's eyes dimmed for a moment before it returned to normal. He glanced at Ling Yun for a moment before he looked at Panmagia and said with a smile, I'm waiting for you. Panmagia was startled by his words and asked, what's the matter? Well, I want to treat you to dinner. Do you have free time? He asked shyly. After speaking, he glanced at Ling Yun and saw that he was frowning. Ling Yun was a little displeased with the invitation from the educated youth, but Panmagia didn't think much about it. It is normal for educated youths to get together for a meal occasionally. She also joined them on several occasions. They would eat together while discussing some of the political situations in the capital. After thinking for a while, she said, Comrade Han, thank you for inviting me. When she said this, the two men looked at her with 2 different gazes. When Ling Yun heard this, his eyes turned cold, while the educated youth was happy. Before Comrade Han could say anything, she added, but I'm too tired from work, so I can only refuse your invitation. I'm sorry. Comrade Han was stunned for a moment after hearing her words. He looked at the 2 of them, smiled awkwardly, and asked, are you 2 together? Panmagia was confused, but Ling Yun understood. So when Panmagia wasn't paying attention, he nodded slightly to him. When Comrade Han saw him nodding, his face turned pale and he took a few steps back. Panmagia was taken aback, thinking that he was not feeling well. Before she could step forward to help him or answer the educated youth's question, Ling Yun held her wrist and said with a frown, my arm hurts. When she heard that his arm was hurting, she forgot Comrade Han's pale face and unsteady steps. She quickly held Ling Yun's arm and asked, did the wound open again? I don't know. Ling Yun looked at her worried face and said in a low voice. When Panmagia checked his arm, Ling Yun looked at Comrade Han coldly. Seeing their intimate behavior, Comrade Han finally believed that Panmagia and Ling Yun were in a relationship. He seemed to have lost his soul, turned around and walked away listlessly. Ling Yun watched him go until he could no longer see his back. Then he looked at Panmagia and said, I'm fine. The pain is gone. Are you sure? Panmagia asked. MHMM. When we have a day off, we will go to the hospital to check your wound again. The doctor said you should not lift heavy objects, but you still use your injured arm to help me work. What if the wound worsens? Panmagia said worriedly. I'm fine. Hearing his answer, Panmagia let go of his arm and said, I'll cook bone soup for you tomorrow. Okay. After Ling Yun sent Panmagia back to the Lu family's house, he returned to his home carrying a bamboo basket. There was a jar of candied fruits, a few steamed buns, a bowl of braised pork, and a plate of stir-fried pickled vegetables, all made by Wang Muxiao. Since Panmagia bought the ingredients, Wang Muxiao didn't mind Panmagia sharing a portion with her friends. Therefore, after sending Panmagia back to the Lu family every day, Ling Yun would come back with dinner. His life in Zai village is much more comfortable than before. At the same time, Li Chenmo just finished taking a shower in Lu Ju's space and went to find his wife. When he walked into the kitchen, he saw his wife putting dinner on the table. Looking at her white and slender legs, his Adam's apple rolled up and down, and his desire was ignited. Because the weather in the space is comfortable, Lu Ju likes to wear shorts and t-shirts. She felt comfortable and accustomed to such clothes in her previous life, which made her forget that her husband was born and raised in an era when women wore long sleeves and long pants all year round. The way she looks now is a great temptation to her husband. Looking at his wife's alluring figure, Lee Chenmo felt itchy in his heart and hugged her from behind. Feeling her husband's warm body surrounding her, Lu Jiu said, "Let's have dinner first, and then go to father's house." MHMM, Lee Chenmo hummed lightly, buried his head on her shoulder, took a deep breath, and smelled her unique fragrance. Lu Jiu let him hug her for a while and then asked, "Aren't you hungry?" "I am," he said hoarsely as his eyes darkened.